I grew 35,000 subscribers on YouTube with a full-time job. Let's get into how I did that. So I've been getting a lot of questions around the topic of content creation and how I'm doing that while obviously having a full-time 9-to-5 job in London, which is quite a stressful city to work and live in. And I wanted to get into that because I've been doing it for over 2 years now, and I feel like I have some tips and thoughts I'd like to share on the topic. So grab yourself a coffee or a tea and let's get into it. A bit about me if you don't watch my videos. I work a 9-to-5 in marketing in London, which London is obviously quite a fast-paced city, and it can be quite a stressful environment to sort of live and work in. And I work in content marketing, and I also have a hybrid role. I used to be fully remote. Now I go to the office once or twice a week, and I feel like that was really crucial for me being able to pursue content creation in the first place. I just want to put that out there. I do not go to the office every day. And I did choose that role intentionally. I did turn down other roles with a higher salary because I knew that I wanted to continue to pursue content creation on the side. And it's a lot easier to do if you do have a few working from home days, because you're obviously saving a lot of time on commuting, and also you're saving a lot of energy, I feel like. I think the first point definitely is know why you're doing it. I think it's super important that you know why you want to pursue content creation next to your full-time job in the first place, because otherwise I think you're going to lose motivation really quickly. If you're doing it for the money, that's definitely not the most effective thing to do. That's definitely not the most cost-effective side hustle financially, just in terms of how much time it takes and how much you potentially get out of it. If your motivation is money, then this may not be the right side hustle for you. For me, I started YouTube as sort of a creative outlet. Even though I work in marketing, it's quite numbers driven, and obviously I'm not in full creative control of campaigns and stuff like that. So I found it really helped me also in my 9-to-5 to be happier in my 9-to-5, to have something on the side that I have full creative control over and that I can sort of put my creative energy into. And obviously over time I was lucky enough to be able to build a community, and that's also where sort of feedback comes in, and I find that super fulfilling and gratifying, because in marketing obviously you kind of see success in terms of numbers going up, KPIs being hit, but you don't really get direct feedback from customers. I mean, definitely not in the type of marketing I work in. So I just found it super cool to be able to put something out there and get instant feedback on it. It really means a lot to me when someone comments and, when my videos make their day a little bit better, and that's keeping me going at the moment. And I really feel like it's super crucial to have a reason for doing this. And you can repeat that to yourself when, you need to edit a video after your 9-hour work day, and you really just want to watch TV, but, you need to edit a video that takes a couple of hours. So I think it's super important to have that reason and that purpose for starting it in the first place. I think the second most important thing is to set yourself realistic goals and a realistic schedule that you can actually manage. For example, in my case, I've stuck to one YouTube video a week consistently. I would love to create more short form content. I would love to expand into other channels, but right now with my 9-to-5 also being pretty demanding, and I do also want to grow in my role in my 9-to-5, unfortunately I can't put more time into, let's say, short form content. I think it's really important to be super realistic with what you can actually achieve in the limited amount of time that you do have. Obviously, if I were a full-time creator, I could, create a lot of short form content, create long form content, maybe write more, but I'm not, right? So I need to kind of prioritize which channels I want to grow in and then set myself a realistic target, because otherwise you are going to burn out and you are going to not be able to hit your goals and your targets and your schedules that you set for yourself, and it's going to be frustrating and potentially lead to you stopping. I think something that ties into that is set yourself like a super realistic goal and schedule, but then really stick to that schedule. Let's say in my case, it's 1 YouTube video a week consistently. And you know, that does sometimes mean to cancel plans after work, not to make plans in the first place because I know I need to edit. You know, sometimes it wipes out my weekends because I'm going to film, I'm going to edit. And that's also, again, where the purpose comes in, because I think you really need to find something that you do enjoy and you need to have that purpose, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to cancel fun plans on the weekend to edit your video. Again, for me in my growth journey, I think it was really important that I was consistent in 2 years and that I'm sticking to my schedule and that my schedule is realistic for my life. Just to give you a practical example here, I have editing days, right? Because the way my brain works, I don't want to sort of renegotiate with myself every day, like you need to edit, you need to edit. I have set days where I film, and mostly that's sort of Monday to Wednesday or Tuesday to Thursday, and then Saturday is my editing day. So I very rarely make plans on Saturday. Usually I kind of just lock myself in my house and I edit all day, and that's just the reality. I enjoy doing it. I actually really like editing, and it also doesn't have to be in your house. Like very often I go to like a coffee shop and edit there, and you can get out and I can still do stuff on Friday nights. Sundays usually just my chill days, so I think it's really important to kind of have a bit of a schedule and like set days where it makes sense for you. And then obviously sometimes if I can't edit on Saturdays, I will edit right after I film the content. So let's say I film content from Tuesday to Thursday, then I will edit that content I just filmed on the same evening after work. If YouTube is not the channel you want to pursue, then, you know, my tips may not make sense here, but I feel like a lot of it can be applied on other channels, but let me know if you disagree. Another practical thing that I can recommend is Notion. I love Notion. I have my whole life on Notion. You know, you can build yourself like a proper content calendar, which I guess is where my sort of marketing background comes in, but I do have basically the same social media calendar that I use for work. I use for my own content creation, and I think it's really important to make yourself a calendar somewhere. Obviously it doesn't have to be Notion, but I would recommend it. I really like using Notion. This is not an ad, by the way. I wish Notion reached out to me. But yeah, I would definitely recommend somewhere where you can capture your video ideas and create your schedule. And something I would also recommend doing, I kind of mix my to-dos. So I do mix my work to-dos with my content creation to-dos. And that may not make sense for everyone, but for me personally, it helps me to keep on track with content creation and also see it more as something to take serious, if you know what I mean. Because I think if I would have my to-do list separate, I would just kind of forget about the content creation ones. I would recommend keeping one to-do list for everything. Easier said than done, but don't compare yourself to full-time creators. And that is obviously so obvious, I mean, duh. I actually found that really hard not to compare myself. I think in content creation in general, it's really hard not to compare yourself. And then sometimes you obviously see creators that put a lot out there, even if they do have a full-time job. Honestly, like some people are actual machines. But you never know someone else's situation. Like you don't know what sort of their work setup is. They may be really burned out, and I think it's just really easy to compare yourself to others without any context, and I think that's super not productive at all. So stop comparing yourself. Don't compare yourself to full-time creators, because there's like no point at all. You're not playing the same game. You do not have the same amount of time. It is what it is. It shouldn't stop you from starting and creating if that's what you want to do, but don't feel discouraged if you see someone else, let's say, grow faster or, you know, having a bigger community, because they may have a lot more time to put into that than you do. Different circumstances obviously mean different outputs, and that's totally fine. You just need to constantly remind yourself that you cannot compare yourself to a full-time creator. I do think that ties in quite nicely with my next point, which is your 9 to 5 doesn't need to be something that's holding you back in terms of content creation. It can also be something that helps you stand out from others, and our lives just naturally look more like our audience's life, because, you know, we all have a 9 to 5 and we're all trying to make it work. So if you have like a really exciting 9 to 5 in like a super interesting field, even better. But honestly, it doesn't even have to be that. If you have like a normal job as well, I mean, most people have a normal job, and I think it's nice to have something that people can relate to. I don't think you need to try to be interesting to be able to create content. If you watch my vlogs, I'm kind of just showing my normal, you know, day-to-day life as someone that does work full-time. I think it's really important to just document your life and not doing a lot of stuff that's sort of just for the video, you know, to seem more interesting, to kind of fill the video out more, because that's how you're going to burn out. I can tell you that from experience. If I do a lot of extra stuff that I wouldn't normally do outside of my 9 to 5, that's when I get really stressed out and really burned out, because then it becomes a lot. And it also ties back into comparing yourself with full-time creators, because I watch a lot of videos of someone that is a full-time creator, and they obviously have a lot more hours during the day to go out in the city and explore and go to a museum, go shopping, whatever it may be. So that's just not the case for you, right? Like, we are kind of stuck at home for like 8 to 9 hours a day. So you're very limited with what you can do. And like, if you do leave the house and do stuff, it needs to naturally be something that you actually do. So I guess documenting over creating and staging stuff. But yeah, just to sum it up, I feel like you should use your 9 to 5 to your advantage. Don't see it as something that's holding you back, and just document and see where the journey goes. Okay, next tip is about money, and I'm not sure if that contributed to my growth, so take it with a grain of salt, but I do not currently do paid sponsorships. I have done some in the past, but very limited and only with brands that I wanted to work with, which is why I've only worked with like a handful of companies. And I also think that's another advantage that you do have over full-time creators, because, you know, your 9 to 5, I would hope, pays your bills. That's the case for me anyways. And the money I make from YouTube is nice, and I'm obviously so grateful to be able to, you know, get anything out of it financially, because this is my sort of passion project and my creative outlet, but it's not in any shape or form, you know, paying my bills in London. So in your time of growth, I would be super cautious with paid sponsorships and what you accept. It can be really tempting in the beginning when you get your first offers and, you know, you're just kind of starting out and you're excited to get offers, but I would say be super, super cautious. And again, this is where you really have like an edge over full-time creators who do obviously have to make money with creating content. You can say no, and I would encourage you to do so in the beginning, and then obviously kind of see how it goes and what you feel comfortable with. The way I consume content, like content creators, I get turned off pretty easily with paid sponsorships, especially if they don't feel like natural to the person, if I don't really, you know, relate to the product they're selling, or if I just feel like it's overdone, then it can turn me off long term from someone. So, you know, I'm just super cautious with it, and I think if you can afford to say no, do so. Just as like a little outro, because I realized that I've talked a lot about full-time creators, what I really don't want you to take away from this video is that I think full-time content creation is easy. Just because I'm doing this next to my 9 to 5 doesn't mean it's easy to balance. It's not. Like, you do have to, as I said, sacrifice some weekends and, you know, like an evening after work and stuff like that. You do really have to be clever with your schedule. I really don't like the narrative of, you know, full-time content creation is not a job, it's really easy, It always depends what you compare it to. Honestly, I feel like it's quite like a misogynistic thing, because in my opinion, truly, I think if most content creators were men and not women, it's very like female dominated industry, then we would call them like digital entrepreneurs or like creative entrepreneurs, like stuff like that. And also I feel like people underestimate putting yourself out there in public and like opening yourself up to sort of public commentary is something you can't really sort of quantify what that sort of takes from you, if you know what I mean. So I think we should respect full-time creators a bit more and the graph that they're doing, because it's not an easy thing to do. So yeah, I really just wanted to point that out. I hope these tips are helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out, let me know, comment under this video. If you're not watching my vlogs yet, then you definitely should. And yeah, content creation, you know, next to your 9 to 5 isn't always easy, can't lie, but it's very much worth it, and I find it super fulfilling and I can definitely recommend. And I know it's the most annoying thing to hear, but you need to start, and you just need to start somewhere. Put your first video out there, see how it goes, and just go from there, honestly. And you'll be able to adapt your schedule once you get going and once you kind of get a feel for how long it takes you to film, how long it takes you to edit, but you won't know until you start, so just start. And that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.